Hello, I'm Christine, and we've come to the end of another fucking year. And it's time to do the favorite books of 2022. I have been creating a video list log of my favorite books every year since 2013. That's so many years. So if you're looking for really good books and you've already read all of these, you can wind back real far. Lots of book choices. I'll leave links in the description to the playlist. I don't need to do every individual yet. To the playlist of my favorite books. Oh! I put a light behind me. I have 6 new favorite books this year and a few honorable mentions. And my list aren't books necessarily that came out this year. It's books that I read in this year that will now forever be on my list of favorite books. And I'm not choosing a certain number. If I don't like it enough to be a favorite, it's not gonna make the list. So we've got 6 books! Let's roll right into this. Alright, we're gonna start with our honorable mentions. The first one I have here is Defend the Dawn, the sequel to Defy the Night, which was our Booksplosion book of the month for October. Big thanks to Bloomsbury for sponsoring us. This is one of the only fantasies I read this year, and I just really love these characters and the dynamics between them all. Bridget Kemmerer does a really fantastic job creating well-rounded, interesting characters, and Defend the Dawn really blew open the world that we started to get to know and Defy the Night. And in terms of fantasy, it is definitely a lighter fantasy. It's not hard to get into. They have amazing audiobooks. It's a grounded, medieval feeling, political fantasy environment. There's a plague and there's a certain flower that you need to use to make the elixir to heal people from this plague. There's only a limited supply, and the kingdom is struggling to deal with that. It just ended spectacularly. There were a lot of moments in it where I was like, whoa! Ho! Next honorable mention is none other than Christina Lauren's release from 2022, Something Wilder. I loved this book! It didn't quite make the favorites list because I'm comparing it to, the soulmate equation. It wasn't on this level for me, but it was just below. I love the second chance romance trope. I could not wait to pick up this book in every free moment. This is such a great pick-me-up, get me back into the reading flow read. This is my favorite brand of book, the kind that wakes up my brain again and makes me excited to spend time with stories. Full disclosure for all of you who are patiently waiting and or wondering, I have been reading House of Sky and Breath all year on and off. I feel the weight of y'all waiting for the book talk very much. I feel the weight of the pressure I will put on myself for that book talk very much, and I've been very busy. So I have not wanted to finish it because I'm not ready to do the book talk because I haven't had time. This is my time though, so over the holidays I will be finishing this. The time, it draws near. I'm 61% of the way through. I own it in hard copy, I own it in audiobook, and I own the digital copy. But if you're expecting it to pop up on this list, it will not because I have not finished it. If I like it enough for the list, it will be on next year's list. Alright, I've got 3 more quick honorable mentions. We have The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. This was on the borderline of favorites and honorable mentions, and what makes the difference for me is just how I end up connecting to the story, how much I think back to it and ruminate on it. It's all a personal thing. And this is fantastic. I loved this novel, but it just didn't connect with me in that emotional, personal way that makes something your favorite. One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have been tearing through Taylor Jenkins Reid's backlist because I love her front list. I really enjoyed One True Love. Her backlist is full of romance novels, but they're not rom-coms. There's a very dramatic seriousness to what's happening in her backlist novels. She has the same writing gift that Gail Forman has to hit you so hard with what she's trying to get across without using a ton of words. She can describe such a long period of time in such a short period of time, and you can understand exactly everything that happened. She gets her point across in a concise, beautiful way. One True Loves is about a young woman, I think she's 31, and she's a widow, and she's finally met someone new, and they're engaged, and they're at dinner with her parents, and she gets a phone call, and it's from her husband. And her husband was supposed to be dead. He was dead 3 years ago. And it was in an accident where they never found his body. And he's not dead. It makes everything very confusing for her because she's gone through so much after that death. It is an emotional journey, and it's also very cute and very sweet and very heartwarming, but also gut-wrenching, and I loved it. This is my favorite of her backlist so far. I have read One True Loves and After I Do. After I Do was also very good, but that one was much sadder, in my opinion. The last honorable mention I have here is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This is the first in a phenomenal trilogy. I highly recommend this series. It is about a girl in her senior year of high school doing basically like a thesis project she has to do, and she wants to do it on this murder that happened in her town 10 years ago. And in the second book, she ends up starting a podcast using her project in the first book. This is a wild fucking ride. If you are new to the true crime sort of world, this is a great starter book. I don't read much true crime. This is a great one also because it has a love story happening in it, and I love a love story, and I don't know if all true crime stories have a love story running through it. I would think probably not. I love romance. I love the romance. I love the case. Maybe it has to go on the favorites list. Okay, never mind. This is the first book on the favorites list is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Well, we broke into the list by accident early. Turns out I have 7 new favorites that we're adding to the favorites of all time. Now we're gonna get into the planned list. Here's to Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. This is the sequel to What If It's Us that came out a few years ago. I love these books. They're so sweet. I love that they're about 2 characters that are a little older. In What If It's Us, I believe it's the summer before they go into college, and it's like a missed connection romance. And I was so excited when they announced that there is a sequel, and I just had the best time reading it. It's so good. If you haven't read these and you love a sweet rom-com contemporary Ben and Arthur's love story, it's so beautiful. Betrayed by Emily Henry. I think a lot of you have already read it. It came out in 2019, and I think it came out right around Again But Better came out, so I was overwhelmed and distracted and didn't get to read it, unless it came out in 2020, in which I was writing Better together, and I was really distracted and didn't get to read it. I can't remember when it came out, but I wanted to read it, and I never did. And I read it this year, and just had the most amazing time. I laughed, I cried. She writes mystery thrillers, she writes romance books, and they make a bet. So, classic rom-com setup. They make a bet. They'll both write in each other's genres, and the first person to sell their book wins the bet. Like, sell their new book in a new genre. God, I fucking loved it so much. 4 on my list this year is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins. I had a lot of authors showing up twice on my list this year because I kind of wanted to study the craft. If I found a book I really loved, this year I was going back and reading everything that they've written. So I kind of had 3 major authors that I did that with this year, one being Emily Henry and another being Taylor Jenkins Reid. So this was her new novel this year. It was so fucking good. It's excellent, okay? And you don't have to like tennis to like it. I had no idea anything about tennis. I learned about tennis through the book, and it really opened my eyes to some fascinating aspects of it that you don't know if you don't play tennis. If you do like tennis, I feel like you'll fucking love this. Coming in at 3! Oh, we're already at the very top of the list. I loved this book so much. These top 3, I just kept rotating them. I wasn't sure what's number 1. But at 3, I have Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Oh, I love this so much. So Abby Jimenez is another one of those authors that I found this year, and I just wanted to read every single thing that she's written. She's phenomenal. Her books are so funny, and her characters are so fantastic. I connect to them, specifically Part of Your World. So I read 3 of her novels. Part of Your World was the first one I read, and I connected to the lead in such intense ways where I feel like I related to a lot of the like little weird things that she says. Not weird things, but things that I hadn't seen in a character in a novel. The romance was so good! It's so good. And I love the cover. You know I love a divided cover. And it's like your classic small town, big city girl meets small town guy setup trope, but it's so perfectly done. Like, she takes the trope and does it in her way, and it's amazing. My top two here, I keep switching them back and forth. I think I'm gonna go with number 2 on my list this year being Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This book was perfection, and I'm so in love with the characters. I'm so in love with Emily's writing. It's amazing. I adore it. It has everything I love in a book. And finally, coming in at number 1 on my 2022 favorites list is As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. This is the 3rd book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. I started it and I put it down for like 2 months because things were really sad in the beginning and it was a real rough start. But wow, it just threw me so many times into a fucking tizzy. I couldn't. And I don't want to say much because this is the 3rd book in the series. If you look at this series, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, you see it and you think, after you read the 1st book, you're like, oh, they're all kind of separate, episodic books. That's what it feels like because it's true crime. But the overarching story is so fucking good. I loved it. And I did the audiobooks, which are phenomenal! Top notch! So, this is my favorite book of the year. We're pushing the boundaries of YA with the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. And those, ladies and gentlemen, were my new favorites that I read in 2022. I'd love to hear what made your threshold for favorites that you read this year. My name is Christine Riccio. I am also an author. I have a release coming out in 2023. I mean, it's the paperback of my release from 2020, but it has a full new cover and a new chapter, and it's coming out in April. It's coming out April 11th. If you haven't yet and you're interested in reading it, you can pre-order it now. I greatly appreciate if you've already pre-ordered it. Thank you so much. And I newly have a podcast called Those Forking Fangirls that I do with Natasha Polis from @Tashopolis. It is so much fun. We talk all things nerdy, pop culture, books, movies, TV, like anything in fandom and how it integrates into our adult lives. So it's all fandom stuff, but also being an adult who is still part of fandom and being an adult who's such a pop culture nerd. Thus far, we've done episodes like Can You Grow Out of YA? About like embarrassing like fangirly celebrity encounters. We've done our favorite book to movie adaptation. We've done how Twilight has changed our lives. We're both single and we're planning on doing like dating as a pop culture book nerd, all sorts of personal stuff, all sorts of fandom stuff. It's my favorite thing. So if you haven't checked it out yet, I'll link in the description below. You can follow us for free on your favorite podcast listening app. And we have a Patreon with like fun perks. We do an extra show called Fangirl Tea Time every week. I love podcasting. I've been wanting to do it since 2007 and I finally have a podcast. I finally have someone who's willing to podcast with me and I finally have like the tools to do it well. So that is linked in the description. Thank you so much for being with me through 2022. I hope you have a fantastic holiday and a happy new year. I'll see you next time.